So 11.5, this is our last section. It's called the Binomial Theorem. And the first thing you need to know in order to understand the Binomial Theorem is factorials. 6 with an exclamation mark after it is pronounced 6 factorial. So the exclamation mark is the symbol for factorial. And what it means is 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Of course, you don't have to write the times 1, but a lot of people do. Okay. 3 factorial would be 3 times 2 times 1, etc. So one exception is 0 factorial. And 0 factorial is defined to be 1. That's because in the binomial theorem, we'll have a 0 factorial in the denominator, and if we set it equal to 1, the formula works, and if we don't, it doesn't work. And we certainly don't want it to be 0. Okay, so there's two things with factorial 1. There's 0 factorial equals 1, and 1 factorial equals 1. Okay, now, we see a lot of division of factorials. It's very common. So I wanted to show you how that works so you understand it. 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 over 3 times 2 times 1. Notice the 3 times 2 times 1 cancels on the numerator and denominator because those are common factors. So you get all those cancellations. And so what happens if you see a larger number on top, factorial, and then a smaller number on bottom, factorial, it just means that you stop. So 6 times 5 times 4, you stop just before you get to the 3 because the 3 down will cancel. Okay, so this is a good thing to keep in mind. So I wouldn't have written the intermediate step if I were doing this myself. I would just write 6 times 5 times 4 because the 3 times 2 times 1 I know cancels with the 3 factorial on the denominator. In the denominator. So that number is 120. 21 factorial over 16 factorial. I'll just go 21 times 20 times 19 times 18 times 17, and I stop there because the 16 times 1, 15 times ... times 1, that all cancels with the 16 factorial in the denominator. So if you multiply this out, it's still a pretty big number. It's 2,441,888. These factorial things tend to get large very quickly. Okay, so now we need to talk about binomial coefficients. They're written this way, and it's read 15 choose 3. Don't put a line in between the 15 and 3. It's not a fraction. Okay, it means 15 choose 3. What does that mean? If you have a bowl and it's filled with 15 balls and you choose 3 of them, and they're all numbered differently, and you choose 3 of them, and you don't care what order you choose them in, you just choose 3. This is the number of ways that can be done. 15 choose 3 is how many ways you can choose 3 things out of 15. So say I had a class of 15 students and I wanted to send 3 to Washington, D.C. for some event, and I have to choose 3. So 15 choose 3 would be how many ways I could choose those 3 out of the 15 students in the class. Hope that makes sense. So the way it's calculated is this. You'd have 15 factorial over 3 factorial times 12 factorial. So the 15, of course, comes from here. The 3 comes from here. And so you might ask, where does the 12 come from? Well, notice that 3 plus 12 is 15. And so 12 is what we call the complement of 3 in 15. In other words, if you had a bowl of 15 balls and you separated out 3 of them, then there'd be 12 left. Okay, and it turns out the number of ways of choosing 3 items out of 15 is the same as the number of ways of choosing 12 things out of 15. So in other words, 5 choose 3 is the same as 5 choose 12. And the reason is because you're choosing 3 balls to remove, or you're choosing 12 balls to leave and remove the rest, and it amounts to the exact same thing. So you'll find with the, well, first of all, I wanted to make the point that 3 plus 12 is 15, and 12 is called, so I'm just writing this out for you, what I already told you. 12 is called the complement of 3 and 15. So it kind of looks like that if you think of areas. So 15 choose 3 equals 15 factorial over 3 factorial times 12 factorial equals 15 factorial over 12 factorial 3 factorial equals 15 choose 12. And it's like I just said, you can choose to pick 3 things out of 15, or you can choose to leave 12 things out of 15, and it amounts to the exact same thing. So those two numbers have to be the same. Okay. In general, n choose k equals n factorial over k factorial times n minus k factorial. This might look complicated on the right, but just remember that k plus n minus k equals n. Okay. And that's an important formula. That's why I have a star next to it. You need to memorize that formula.